The words hadn't even finished coming out of his mouth when the room went very quiet. "Stand up, old man," he said. He didn't yell. He just said it loud enough for everyone to hear across the floor. Steven Seagal didn't move. He stayed right where he was, one hand still gently holding the student's wrist he had been teaching with. The old wooden building made a soft creaking sound, like it could feel the tension in the air. Outside, the wind blew through the bamboo trees. It was a quiet sound, softer than the sound of all the people inside holding their breath. Riku Hayama stepped forward. He pulled off his sweatshirt in one quick motion. Underneath, he wore tight black clothes that showed his lean, strong body. His arms had tattoos, some in English, some in Japanese letters. Riku walked like someone used to being on camera, cool and confident. Some people in the crowd lifted their phones. The live video chat started lighting up. Riku looked at the cameras, then looked at Seagal. "I didn't fly all this way just to fall down slowly," he said. "I came to see what happens when someone fights back." A whisper moved through the people watching. Some knew his name. Riku Hayama. A new star in fighting. Young, half American, half Japanese, full of attitude. Steven Seagal didn't blink. He let Riku's words float in the air, mixing with the smell of wood and sweat. "Do you know where you're standing?" he asked softly. Riku smiled a little. He looked like someone on a stage that hadn't had a real show in a long time. More phones came out. The student Seagal was training and stepped aside. No one said anything. No bell rang. No judge appeared. Just space. Riku bowed, just a little. Not out of respect, just because he was supposed to. Then he got ready. His feet moved lightly, fast hands up. He was built for speed. Seagal walked to the middle of the room slowly, knees bent. His black uniform made a soft sound on the floor. He lifted one hand, not to hit, but to quiet the room. His voice was calm when he spoke. "Then come forward," he said. "But keep your mind still." Riku moved first. A small step, then a quick jab that most people missed. Seagal turned, moved, and blocked it without much effort. Riku pulled back. It wasn't a real fight yet. But it wasn't a class either. "Come on," Riku said quietly, more to the crowd than to Seagal. "Is this supposed to impress anyone?" He tried again. This time, a low kick to the leg. Seagal shifted his hips, took the hit, and moved just enough. He stayed calm, eyes focused. He looked too quiet, too relaxed. Riku stopped smiling. He attacked again. Jab. Elbow. Shoulder. Each time stronger, faster. Seagal moved with him. No attacks. Just calm steps. He didn't need to prove anything. He just needed to stay centered. But something in the room began to change. The people watching started to see it differently. They weren't waiting for a big punch anymore. They were looking for control, for meaning. Riku didn't like that. "This isn't martial arts," he said between hits. "This is a dance." Then came a fast grab. Riku moved in hard, slid past Seagal, grabbed his shirt, and tried to trip him. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Seagal's foot slipped on the mat. He fell. Not hard. Not big. Just enough to make the crowd react. Some gasped. Some whispered. The video comments flew faster. Seagal took a breath on the floor. He looked up, not at Riku, but at the old ceiling above. The beams were carved by hand, darkened by smoke and age. He closed his eyes for just a second. Like he was remembering the quiet that used to live here. Riku stepped back, breathing a little harder. "Guess stillness doesn't stop gravity," he said. The room stayed silent. But then, from behind a paper door, came the quiet sound of electric wheels moving on wood. Before anyone could turn, the door slid open just a little. A person entered. He didn't look surprised. Steven Seagal stood up again, slowly, without rushing. He brushed dust off his sleeve and walked back to the middle of the floor, like someone walking into calm water. Riku was already ready. Feet bouncing, shoulders relaxed, fingers moving. His breathing was faster now, not because he was tired, but because he felt excited. He smelled something in the air, not real blood, but something like a chance to win. The dojo's air was different now. Less full of respect. The silence felt tight, like people didn't know what to feel. Someone coughed. Someone whispered. The old wood creaked again, like it was reminding everyone where they were. Riku lifted his chin. That's all you've got? They flew you here for that. He bounced on his toes, then moved again. A jab, just to test. Seagal tilted his head, letting it pass. Then came a hook to the ribs. Fast. Not a big punch, but it would leave a mark if it landed. It didn't. Seagal caught it with an open palm. He didn't block it hard. He just moved with it, gently, like passing it back to the air. No counterattack. No hit. Just softness. Riku smirked, but his eyes didn't match the smile. He attacked again. A front kick to the leg. Then a low elbow toward the ribs. These hits were stronger. Seagal didn't step away. He turned his body, letting the hit slip past him, like wind blowing around a rock. Some people in the crowd nodded. They saw it. This wasn't running away. This was control. This was peace. He didn't need to fight back, because he wasn't afraid. But some didn't like it. They wanted hits. Punches. Big action. Not quiet moves. The video comments grew louder. One person wrote, "Dude's dodging like he's scared to fight." Another said, "This is art. Watch closely." More people were watching now. Riku didn't read the chat, but he could feel the mood change. He didn't like it. He stood tighter. Shoulders down. Then he came in fast. Jab, cross, hook, low kick, elbow. Each move is sharper. Each one meant to push Seagal back. Seagal gave space. Not scared, just patient. He moved like waves going out, waiting for the pull to come back. His arms moved with calm. It wasn't just practice. It was a belief. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying not to lose who he was. Riku was angry now. "You think this is teaching?" he said, breathing hard. "You're just avoiding it. This is cowardice, not wisdom." Seagal said nothing. That silence hit Riku harder than words. Something cracked. Riku rushed in. He grabbed Seagal's shirt and tried to pull him into a hard clinch. Seagal turned, but not fast enough. Riku's body was carried through. He swept his leg, hitting Seagal's ankle. The old master's turn broke. This time, Seagal stumbled. He didn't fall flat, but he dropped to one knee. His hand touched the floor. It was enough. The room changed again. Some people clapped. A few cheered. Not to be mean, but not kindly either. It was the kind of sound people make when something unexpected feels okay. Riku stood tall, breathing hard. He didn't smile. Not really. But his eyes looked different now. Harder. Sharper. That last move wasn't meant to teach. It was meant to win. He looked around, checking everyone's faces. No one stopped him. Maybe that quiet feeling, that was the real kind of silence. He stepped back, fixed how he was standing, and looked at Seagal, who was still on one knee. "You're not here to teach," he said. "You're just hiding behind your stories." Seagal looked up. His eyes were calm. Not angry. It was the kind of look people have when they already went through their biggest fight and came back. "You think being quiet means being scared," Seagal said. "You're wrong. You're not the first one to think that." Riku tilted his head a little. His voice got softer, but not because he was being kind. He was thinking. "Then get up again, teacher," he said. Seagal stood up. Quiet as a feather. At the edge of the mat, the number of people watching online went over 100,000. The camera zoomed in. People watching could see sweat on Riku's face. They saw a mark on Seagal's arm where his clothes had twisted. There was no music. No big welcome. Only the soft sounds of a temple that was watching to see if its rules would hold. Behind a big screen, just outside what the camera could see, a pair of brown leather shoes touched the wooden floor. The person wearing them didn't say anything. Not yet. Seagal took a deep breath. Quieter than the crowd. Riku moved again. He didn't wait. He didn't run, but he moved like he already knew he would win. He faked 2 moves. Then his elbow swung fast, just missing Seagal's ear. Then came the knee. Strong and straight, from his hip. It wasn't meant to hurt badly. Just enough to say, "I'm stronger and you're old now." It hit Seagal in the chest. Seagal's foot slipped. His body wobbled. He tried to stop the fall, but it was too late. His foot didn't land right. His heels slid on the edge of the mat. He fell. Not like in a movie. Just fell, because gravity pulled him down. His back hit the mat. His shoulder bounced. The sound was sharp in the quiet room. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just let out a breath. Like he had been holding it for a long time. The room didn't cheer right away. First, a few quiet claps. Then one louder clap. Then some voices, a cough. Someone turned their phone to stand up for a better picture. Another zoomed in on Seagal's face. He looked up at the ceiling. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't knocked out. He was just still. Above him, the wooden beams looked like ribs of a big, quiet animal. Old and strong. Seagal looked at them like someone remembering a song they used to love, but hadn't heard in years. Riku didn't come over. He didn't need to. He turned to face the crowd. Slowly. On purpose. He was breathing steadily. There was sweat on his face, but not tiredness, only pride. Way in the back, someone clapped again. Not to make fun, but to say it's done. Some people nodded. The feeling in the room wasn't about winning anymore. It felt strange. Not because Riku hit Seagal, but because no one stopped it. Seagal wasn't just a person. He was a symbol. And when symbols fall, it makes a deep sound in your heart. The live show kept going. The chat was full of messages. Seagal's time is over. This old guy's finished. He just deleted Aikido. Then one small comment passed by. Why is he still so calm? At the edge of the mat, the event boss stood by the control panel. His hand hovered over the button that would stop the stream. It was for emergencies, when things went too far. He looked at Seagal. Still lying down. Still breathing. Still not moving. The boss turned to a worker. He whispered something. The worker nodded and walked away. Past the crowd. Past the photographers. Down a small hallway behind the main room. There, in the quiet garden behind the temple, sat a small electric cart. It had cream-white paint and shiny silver trim. It looked a little too new for the old temple, but they had learned how to mix old with new. Inside the cart, a man in a gray suit sat drinking tea from a paper cup. He had no name tag, no microphone, but he was calm in a way that told everyone, this man is important. His beard was a little more white now. His eyes looked tired, but he sat tall and straight, like someone who had stood alone in rooms like this before. The worker bowed and handed him a phone. The message was short. The man didn't blink. He nodded, then stood up. The cart moved. No one needed to say anything. Back in the dojo, Seagal got up. One knee first, then 2 feet. Riku didn't look at him. He was enjoying the crowd, the cameras. This wasn't a fight anymore. This was his moment. And he thought it belonged to him. Seagal fixed his belt. Tied it again. He was calm. His face didn't show any feelings. Outside, the cart moved through the garden. It passed under a small wooden gate. On it were old letters that meant strength, patience, and return. The cart's wheels hummed on the floorboards as it got closer to the back of the dojo. Inside, no one saw it yet. They were all watching Riku, still thinking he had beaten something big and old. But a few people started to turn around. Not because of noise, but because something powerful had entered the room, even before they saw who it was. A paper screen door moved just a little. Behind it, brown leather shoes touched the wood. The door slid open. No music. No lights. Just the soft sound of wood on wood. And a breeze that moved the hanging scrolls. First the brown shoes. Then a white GI, not new and clean, but old and used. The belt was faded, almost silver. Its threads were frayed, like it had been passed from one teacher to another. Chuck Norris walked in. Like he had always been there. No one moved. Not Riku. Not Seagal. Not the people filming. Even the live chat froze for a second, like the internet needed a moment to understand. The feeling of, oh no, it's him came before anyone said his name. Chuck didn't say anything. He didn't look at Riku. Not yet. He walked across the mat, looking only at Seagal. The two men nodded at each other. Not like saying hello. Not like old friends. Just like two trees bowing in the same wind. Riku broke the quiet. Well, well, he said, loud enough for the microphones. Another one? What is this? A fighting class for old folks. A few people laughed. But the laughs were nervous. Not because it was funny, but because they didn't know what else to do. Chuck turned to Riku now. His face didn't change. Riku rolled his shoulders. You too, huh? He said. Here to teach me balance and peace and all that stuff? Chuck lifted his right hand, palm open. Then he twisted his wrist once. It meant just one round. Riku blinked, then smiled. All right, he said. Why not? One more old man to beat and add to his list. He took a step forward. The people around moved closer. They held up their phones again. The camera people moved to get a better look. No one asked if they could start. No one stopped them. The soft mat on the floor seemed to make its own rules now. Chuck didn't stretch. He didn't bow. He just got ready. He stood with his shoulders straight, knees bent a little, hands calm but ready. It looked like something from long ago, but it didn't seem old. It felt right. Riku bounced on his feet. He felt fast and ready. He moved first. A fast punch. Chuck moved his head just a tiny bit. The punch missed by a tiny space, like a whisper. Riku kicked low. Chuck lifted his leg, not to block, but to take his leg away. He turned his body and the kick missed. Riku tried again. Punch, then a fake, then an elbow. Chuck didn't hit back. He gently touched Riku's elbow with two fingers and moved it away, like water moving around a rock. Riku stepped back. He was still smiling, but his eyes looked different now. He was thinking harder. Chuck still hadn't hit him. Riku moved quickly. He tried 3 hits. A punch, an elbow, and a kick. Chuck moved just a little, but it changed everything. He didn't step back. He changed the angle. He touched the elbow with the side of his hand. Not hard, just in the right place. It made Riku stumble a little. The crowd made a sound, not because someone got hurt, but because Chuck had so much control. Chuck stayed still. He didn't say a word. Riku looked tired. His arms shook a little. He started walking in a circle. Chuck waited. Riku attacked again, this time not from thinking, but just because he didn't want to wait. He reached out, trying to grab it. Chuck caught his wrist. Not hard. Not to hurt. Just to hold. Riku tried to pull back, but he couldn't. Chuck wasn't squeezing. He was holding in a way that felt like a mountain holding a sword, strong but calm. It made Riku feel like maybe he wasn't the strongest one here. Chuck let go. Riku stepped back, arms up a little. The crowd stayed quiet. No cheering. It didn't feel like time to clap. It felt like something special had just happened. Behind the cameras, one teacher bowed his head. Not to Chuck, not to Riku, but to the air, like something old and important had returned. Riku looked around. His smile was gone. He wasn't mad. But he wasn't happy either. He breathed out through his nose. You're good, he said softly, maybe just to himself. Chuck didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He stepped back into place and raised his hand again. Now it was round 2. But this time, Riku looked like he had something to prove. The dojo, the quiet training place, held its breath. Riku moved first again. He didn't think, he just did it. His heart felt hot, and so many people were watching. The first round hadn't gone his way. He didn't land a clean hit. Worse, he hadn't scared Chuck at all. So this time, he wasn't going to wait. He threw a sharp punch. It was fast and serious. Chuck leaned back a tiny bit. The punch missed. Chuck stepped to the side. No big moves. No panic. Riku kept going. A low kick. A fake. A fast knee. He was quicker now, not so perfect, but more dangerous. These hits weren't to score points. He wanted to shake Chuck's calm. He wanted to prove something. Chuck blocked the knee with one arm. Just one smooth move. calm, in the right spot. Riku landed, turned, and kept going. He was pushing hard, but Chuck wasn't breaking. Someone in the crowd whispered one word in Japanese, Azu. It means unshaken. Riku clenched his teeth. He faked one way and then came the other. His backhand swung fast at Chuck's head. It could have hurt if it hit, but it didn't. Chuck didn't duck. He didn't lean. He stepped in, not back. His foot turned. His body moved just right. And then it happened. A kick. It came from the ground, smooth and quiet. His heel flew like it had a mission from long ago. It hit Riku's chin in the middle of his spin. It wasn't loud, but the feeling in the room changed. Riku's body turned in the air. One spin, then half of another. He landed on his chest. Arms under him. Legs apart. The mat bounced a little, then stopped. And the room remembered how to breathe. No one clapped. Not because it wasn't amazing, but because the moment didn't want noise. It was quiet. Chuck lowered his legs slowly. Calm. Like finishing a story, not celebrating. Tiny dust floated up around Riku. The sunlight from the roof made the dust glow, like something special had just happened. One camera person moved closer. Not to film Riku, but to film Chuck's foot, resting back on the ground. That video would spread fast, not because it was a strong hit, but because it ended in silence. Chuck didn't smile. He didn't look around. He just stood over Riku. Quiet. Calm. Riku moved a little. His hand. Then his shoulder. He rolled to his side, like waking up from a nap. The referee moved toward the mat, raising a hand to call for help. Chuck shook his head once. Slow. Small. He knew Riku wasn't hurt. Just surprised. The people stayed quiet. The teachers on the wall didn't speak. They watched as Riku sat up. He blinked. His mouth opened a bit. He touched his chin. He looked up. Chuck was still there. Not scary. Not proud. Just there. Riku looked down. He didn't stand up yet. He just sat and breathed. He felt the quiet around him, the quiet he had tried to break. Outside, the big bell rang once. It wasn't for the match. Just the time of day. But inside the dojo, it felt like a full stop. The match was over. Not because someone said so, but because everyone knew. Chuck turned and walked away across the mat. The dust floated behind him, and the room remembered something it had almost forgotten. Victory doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it just stands still and waits. Chuck sat on the edge of the mat, his elbows on his knees, his head tilted, like the room had gone blurry. Riku didn't blink for a long time. A thin red line of blood ran from his mouth to his jaw. A teacher knelt beside him with a cold cloth. Another held out water. Riku didn't take either. Not because he was angry, just because he was still trying to understand. His eyes didn't look at anyone. They looked inside, like watching an old memory. He breathed slowly. The dojo breathed too. People started to move again, talking in soft voices. The live video was still playing, but the comments were getting quiet. People started putting their phones down. They didn't need to record anymore. Someone gave Riku a phone. It was his own. The screen was glowing with a paused video. It showed Riku from 45 minutes ago. He was standing tall, smiling a little, and talking into the microphone. Seagal was next to him, sitting still like a strong tree. The words on the screen said, "What is this, a museum?" Riku watched his own face move. His eyes were sharp, and his mouth looked a bit mean. He watched it again. Then again. And again. The phone almost fell from his hand. But he caught it quickly without thinking. His body still knew what to do. But everything else felt slow. Riku didn't talk. Not to the people working. Not to the students nearby. Not even when someone gave him a towel. He just sat. Chuck had already left the middle of the soft mat. Seagal was still sitting on the side. Legs crossed. Hands resting quietly. The feeling in the room had changed. But it wasn't gone. There was no music. No announcer. No prize. Just time. And it felt slower in that big room. 1 hour passed. The sunlight came in through the wooden beams. It started to get dark. Long shadows stretched across the floor. Some guests bowed and left quietly. The camera crew packed up their things. One person moved to turn off the live video, but the boss said, "One more wide shot. Not to make it fancy. Just to finish." Then Riku moved. Slowly, like he was checking if each part of his body was okay. First his knee, then his foot, then his back. No one helped him. He didn't need help. He walked to the middle of the room. No one told him to. He knelt down in front of Seagal. His back is straight, eyes looking down. Then he leaned forward, putting his forehead to the floor. It was a big sign of respect. He stayed like that, then sat up again. He turned. Chuck was standing near the back. Not leaving yet. Not looking back. Riku turned on his knees and bowed again. This one was slower, deeper. Not to say sorry, but to say, "I see you." Chuck didn't look at him, but he nodded. Not to Riku, just to the space between them. That was enough. No one recorded it. No phones were up. No lights were on. But one camera, forgotten in the corner, was still recording. It caught everything. A big wide shot of the quiet moment. The comments didn't go wild. They became calm. Later, one person saved that moment and posted it online with a simple sentence, "This is what respect looks like." By morning, 1,000,000 people had shared it. But in that room, right then, it belonged only to them. Riku stood again, bowed once more, then stepped off the mat. His face looked different now. Still tired, still a little hurt, but not angry anymore. Whatever fight he had come for, he had found it. And it wasn't with Chuck. It wasn't with Seagal. It was with the old version of himself. The part that always had to win. No one clapped. They didn't need to. At the far end of the room, someone started sweeping. An old man with a straw broom moved slowly, cleaning the floor in soft lines. Riku looked at him, then walked over, took a second broom, and started sweeping too. The sun was gone now. Shadows filled the wooden floor. Everyone had left. The cameras were off. The soft mat was quiet again, waiting for the next day. Chuck and Seagal were sitting on the porch, looking out at the garden. They didn't talk for a long time. A little teapot was between them, steam rising from 2 small cups. Water trickled gently from a stone fountain in the garden. It was the sound of peace, of patience. Chuck took a sip of tea. Then he said, "You didn't lose." Seagal didn't answer right away. He watched a red leaf fall from a tree. It spun once, then landed on the pond, without a single ripple. "I didn't win either," he said. Chuck looked at the leaf too. Then I looked back at the hall. The lights were off, but the room still felt full of everything that had just happened. "He did," Chuck said. They sat in silence again. Behind them, the big sliding doors were open a little. Inside, a shape moved across the floor. Not training, not fighting, just sweeping. It was Riku. He held the broom with both hands, moving slowly, carefully, just like Seagal had done that morning. The camera crew had left, but one camera was still on. It showed the whole room, with warm lights above, and Riku cleaning the floor with care. It also showed Chuck and Seagal, sitting quietly on the porch. The video would be posted later. No music, no edits, just the moment. The top comment would say, "Io never asked to win. It just wanted to be understood." But at this moment, none of that mattered. Chuck poured more tea. The kettle made a soft hissing sound. He looked at Seagal. "Remember when we used to argue about ideas?" Seagal nodded. "You said the Real fight was inside." Chuck smiled. But it wasn't a funny smile. It was a quiet one. "I didn't believe you before. But now." He took another sip. "Now I think the strongest person is the one who stops fighting first." Seagal looked at Riku through the open door. Riku paused. then held the broom a little differently. Just a small change. No one told him to do it. He just saw it. That's someone learning, Seagal said. Chuck nodded. We all are. At the pond, a white crane flew into the air. Its wings brushed the last sunlight. From the garden, the air turned cool. The smell of clean mats, stone, and falling leaves filled the air. There were no trophies, no winners, no loud cheers. Just old wisdom. Finding a new place to live. Riku put the broom back. He bowed to the empty room, then turned to leave. His footsteps were soft. Not hiding. Just peaceful. He passed the porch. He didn't say anything, but he stopped and bowed. Not a big bow. Just enough. Chuck raised his cup. Seagal looked at Riku, not as a teacher, but as someone who had gone on a journey and come back different. Riku kept walking. The wind moved through the bamboo. Inside, the last bit of sunlight touched the floor. For just one more second, then it was gone. And the old dojo, once full of noise and fighting, was quiet again. It was ready, not for winning, but for the next person to come and learn. Did you enjoy the story? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. If you had a great time, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you're always in the loop for the next adventure. Thanks for joining me, and as always, stay curious, stay brave, and keep exploring.